The black SUV came to a screeching halt as two figures stepped into the road, their silhouettes sharp against the setting Colorado sun. Marcus Blackwell gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Through the windshield he saw them. Two young people, maybe 19 or 20, standing side by side with their arms crossed. The girl had long dark hair pulled into a ponytail, and the boy wore a leather jacket that looked too worn for his age. Their faces were identical masks of determination. Marcus leaned forward, squinting. Something about them sent a chill down his spine. The way they stood, the way they stared at him without blinking. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives. The boy raised his hand, palm out, signaling him to stop. Marcus pressed the brake harder, his luxury vehicle settling into stillness on the empty mountain road. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. Another business call, another $1 million deal waiting. He ignored it. For the first time in years, business could wait. The twins did not move. They stood like statues, their eyes locked on him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. Marcus rolled down his window halfway, careful not to expose himself completely. "What the hell are you kids doing? Move out of the road before someone gets hurt." Before you continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay updated with more gripping stories like this one. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and your support means everything to us. Now let's dive back into the story. The girl stepped forward first, her boots crunching on the gravel shoulder. Her voice was steady but laced with something darker, something that had been brewing for years. "Hello, Dad." The word hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. Dad. He stared at her, then at the boy, his mind racing through memories he had buried 20 years ago. Memories he had paved over with success and new families and expensive therapy sessions, where he never quite told the whole truth. The resemblance was undeniable now that she had spoken. Those eyes, the same shape, the same color, the same intensity he saw in his own reflection when he dared to look too long. "I don't know what game you are playing, but you need to move before I call the police." His voice wavered despite his attempt to sound authoritative. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. The boy laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the mountain pass. "Police? Go ahead. Call them. Tell them Marcus Blackwell, the real estate tycoon, the man who built half of Denver, is being stopped by his own children. See how that plays in the news? See how your investors react. See how your perfect reputation crumbles." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He had not heard those words in 2 decades. His own children. He had run from that truth, built an empire to forget it, married twice more to erase it. But here they were, standing in front of him like ghosts made flesh, demanding to be seen after years of invisibility. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Justice," the girl said, her voice cracking on the word. "For Mom, for us, for every birthday you missed. Every Christmas morning we woke up hoping you would come back. Every lie we told ourselves about why you left." The name he had tried to forget crashed over him like a wave. Sarah, beautiful, kind Sarah, who had loved him when he had nothing. Sarah, who had stood by him through his first failed business ventures, who had worked double shifts at the diner to pay their rent. Sarah, who had given him twins when they were barely adults themselves, their faces glowing with terror and hope in equal measure. Sarah, who had gotten sick while he was building his empire on the other side of the country. And Sarah, whom he had abandoned without ever looking back. Marcus swallowed hard, his mouth dry. "Your mother, is she dead?" the boy finished, his voice sharp as broken glass. "No thanks to you, but almost. 3 times she almost died, Dad. 3 times we watched her struggle to breathe in a hospital bed because she couldn't afford proper treatment. 3 times we held her hand and prayed to a God we stopped believing in years ago. 3 times we thought we would lose the only parent who ever cared about us. The only parent who stayed." The girl's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face now. "You left us when I was 3. Do you remember?" "I don't. But Evan does. He remembers you walking out the door with your suitcase. He remembers Mom crying on the kitchen floor for hours. He remembers the eviction notice 2 months later. He remembers eating cereal for dinner because there was nothing else. He remembers all of it because he had to be the man of the house at 3 years old." Evan. The boy's name surfaced from the depths of Marcus's memory like a drowning man gasping for air. And the girl must be Emma. He had chosen those names with Sarah, lying in bed in their tiny apartment, dreaming of a future that had never materialized. Not the way he had wanted it to. He had wanted penthouses and private jets. Sarah had wanted a family who ate dinner together. I was young, Marcus said, hating how weak his excuse sounded even to his own ears. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to handle the pressure of 2 babies and no money in a future that looked impossible. So you ran, Emma said, stepping closer to the car. You ran to California. You ran to new opportunities. You ran to a new life where you could pretend we never existed. And you left us with nothing. Not even a goodbye. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but Evan cut him off. Get out of the car. What? Get out of the car, Dad. You owe us a conversation, a real one. Not through a windshield, not through lawyers and excuses, face to face like a man, like the father you should have been. Marcus hesitated. Every instinct told him to floor the accelerator, to drive around them, to escape this confrontation the way he had escaped every difficult moment in his life. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way Emma's jaw trembled as she fought back tears. Maybe it was the raw pain in Evan's eyes that mirrored something deep inside himself. Maybe it was the guilt he had carried like a stone in his chest for 20 years, growing heavier with each passing day. He turned off the engine and stepped out. The mountain air was cold, colder than he expected for October. The sun dipped lower behind the peaks, casting long shadows across the asphalt. The 3 of them stood in a triangle, separated by years of silence and an ocean of regret that seemed impossible to cross. You look just like her, Marcus said, staring at Emma. Your mother. You have her smile, her eyes, the way you stand with your shoulders back like you are ready to fight the world. Don't, Emma snapped, her voice breaking. Don't you dare talk about her like you knew her. You gave up that right when you walked out. You don't know anything about her. You don't know how she cried herself to sleep for the first year. You don't know how she worked herself sick to give us a decent life. You don't know how she defended you when we asked why you left, making excuses for you even when there were none. Evan circled the SUV slowly, his eyes never leaving Marcus. We tracked you down 6 months ago. It wasn't easy. You changed your name twice. Marcus Caldwell became Marcus Blackwell. You buried your past like it never existed. You hired lawyers to seal records. You paid people to forget you ever had a first family. But we found you. We watched you. Your fancy penthouse in Denver with the floor-to-ceiling windows. Your new wife Victoria with her designer clothes and charity galas. Your new kids James and Lily who get everything we never had. Your perfect life built on the grave of your old one. Marcus felt his stomach drop. You have been watching me? For months, Emma confirmed. We watched you take James to his soccer games. We watched you help Lily with her science project. We watched you be the father to them that you never were to us. Do you have any idea what that felt like? To see you being everything we needed, just with different kids? What did you expect? Evan demanded, stepping closer until Marcus could see the pain etched into every line of his face. Did you think we would just forget you existed? That we would move on with our lives and never wonder why our father chose money over us? That we would never ask why we weren't enough to make you stay? It wasn't about you, Marcus protested. But even as he said it, he knew how hollow it sounded. You were perfect. You were innocent. It was me. I was the problem. Then why didn't you fix yourself? Emma asked, her voice rising. Why didn't you get help? Why didn't you come back when you made your first million? Your first 10 million? When you could have given us everything? Then what was it about? Evan demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Tell us, Dad. Make us understand why you disappeared. Why you never called on our birthdays. Why you never sent a single dollar to help when Mom got sick. Why you pretended we didn't exist while you built a new family that did. The question hung in the air between them, heavy and suffocating. Marcus had asked himself the same thing countless times over the years, especially late at night when the champagne wore off and the silence of his empty mansion became deafening. When he lay awake beside his new wife and felt like a fraud. When he saw his new children and thought about the ones he had abandoned. I was scared, he finally admitted, his voice breaking. I was terrified of failing. Your mother and I, we were so young. I was 22. She was 21. We had no money, no prospects, no support from our families, and suddenly we had two babies who depended on us for everything. I couldn't handle it. Every time one of you cried, I felt like I was drowning. Every bill that came in felt like another weight pulling me under. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. So I ran. I told myself I would come back when I made it big, when I had enough money to give you everything you deserved. But by the time I made it, too much time had passed. I didn't know how to come back. I didn't know if you would even want me to. So I convinced myself you were better off without me. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. We needed you, not your money. We needed a father. Mom needed a partner. She worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. She went to night school to get her nursing degree while raising us alone. She sacrificed her health, her dreams, every single thing she wanted for herself so we could have a chance. And where were you? Building your empire, living your best life, erasing us from your history like we were a mistake you wanted to forget. I know, Marcus said quietly, tears streaming down his face now. I know I failed you. I failed all of you. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about what I did, about the choice I made. Evan pulled something from his jacket pocket, a photograph, worn and faded, the edges soft from years of handling. He held it up. Marcus recognized it immediately, the 4 of them at the hospital the day the twins were born. Sarah looked exhausted but radiant, holding both babies against her chest. Marcus stood beside her, young and terrified, trying to smile for the camera, but looking like he might bolt at any second. This is the only picture we have of us together, Evan said, his voice thick with emotion. One picture. That is all you left us with. One picture and a lifetime of questions that Mom couldn't answer because she didn't understand either why you left. Marcus reached for the photo, desperate to hold it, to touch that moment when they had been a family, but Evan pulled it back. You don't get to touch this. This belongs to us, to the family you abandoned, to the life you destroyed. The anger in his voice was palpable, but beneath it, Marcus heard something else. Pain, deep, unrelenting pain, the kind that comes from being unwanted, from being left behind, from wondering every single day what you did wrong to make your father leave. What do you want from me? Marcus asked again, his voice breaking. Tell me what I can do to make this right. I will do anything. Anything. Emma laughed, but there was no humor in it, only bitterness aged to perfection over 20 years. Make it right? You think you can make 20 years of abandonment right? You think you can erase the nights Mom cried herself to sleep? The times we went hungry because she couldn't afford groceries and rent in the same month? The shame we felt when other kids asked about our dad and we had to lie and say you were dead because it was easier than admitting you just didn't want us? I will do anything, Marcus repeated desperately. I will pay for your education. I will set up trust funds. I will buy you houses, cars, whatever you need. I will give you everything I should have given you before. We don't want your money, Evan interrupted, his voice cold. We never wanted your money. We wanted a father. We wanted someone to teach us how to ride bikes, how to throw a baseball, how to talk to girls, how to be men. We wanted someone to come to our school plays and our graduations. We wanted someone to be proud of us. But you weren't there. You were too busy being proud of your new kids. Then what? Marcus shouted, his composure finally cracking completely. What do you want from me if not money? What can I possibly give you that will make up for what I took? Emma stepped forward until she was inches from his face, so close he could see the tears pooling in her eyes. We want you to suffer the way we suffered. We want you to feel what it is like to lose everything, to be helpless, to watch someone you love slip away and not be able to do anything about it. We want you to feel the pain you caused us. Her words sent ice through his veins. What did you do? Evan smiled, but it was cold and calculated, the smile of someone who had spent months planning this moment. Your new wife, Victoria, your 8-year-old son, James, your 6-year-old daughter, Lily. They are currently at your cabin in Aspen. You know, the one you bought last year for weekend getaways. The one with the beautiful lake view and the dock where you take James fishing. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him, his world tilting on its axis. If you hurt them, if you touch one hair on their heads, I swear to God. Relax, Dad, Emma said, but her voice was sharp. We are not monsters. Unlike you, we don't abandon innocent children. They are safe for now. But here's the thing. You have a choice to make. The same choice you made 20 years ago. You can go to them, save your perfect family, and continue living your perfect life. Or you can come with us. Come with you where? To Mom, Evan said, his voice softening for the first time. She doesn't have long. The cancer spread to her lungs, her liver, her brain. Stage 4, terminal. The doctors give her a week, maybe 2 if she is lucky. She is in hospice care at our house. She asked to see you. One last time. After everything. After 20 years of silence and abandonment and pain. She still wants to see you. She wants to forgive you before she dies. Can you believe that? After everything you put her through, all the suffering and struggle and heartbreak, she still wants to forgive you. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face, hot and unstoppable. Sarah was dying, the woman he had loved first, before he knew what love really meant. The mother of his first children, the person who had believed in him when no one else did. She was dying, and she wanted to see him. This is your choice, Emma continued, her voice trembling. Go save your current family from a threat that may or may not be real, or come say goodbye to the woman you destroyed. But you can't do both. The cabin is 2 hours north. Mom is 3 hours south. By the time you get to one, it will be too late to reach the other. Just like you couldn't be there for both families before. Just like you had to choose between ambition and us. You have to choose. Again. And this time we will all see what matters more to you. The cruelty of it hit him like a freight train. They had orchestrated this moment perfectly, forced him to confront the consequences of his choices, made him feel the weight of choosing one family over another, made him live through the impossible decision he had forced Sarah to live with every single day. My kids, Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. Victoria, they didn't do anything wrong. They are innocent in all of this. Neither did we, Evan said coldly, his eyes hard. But that didn't stop you from leaving us. That didn't stop you from choosing yourself over us. That didn't make you come back when Mom got her first diagnosis, or her second, or her third. You stayed away because it was easier, because facing what you did was too hard. Marcus looked between them, his mind racing. His phone buzzed again in the car. Probably Victoria wondering where he was. He was supposed to be home an hour ago. They were supposed to have dinner together as a family. James had made him a drawing at school. Lily wanted to show him her new dance routine. Normal family things. Things he had never done with Evan and Emma. But Sarah. Sarah was dying. And despite everything, despite the years and the distance and the new life he had built on the ashes of his old one, the thought of her dying without seeing him one last time shattered something inside him. There is no threat to Victoria and the kids, is there? Marcus asked suddenly, realization dawning like cold water. You wouldn't hurt them. You are not like me. Emma's expression flickered, her mask slipping for just a moment. No, we wouldn't. We could never do to those innocent children what was done to us. But you didn't know that when we told you. You had to choose without knowing. You had to feel the panic and the fear and the impossible weight of choosing between two families. And what did you choose, Dad? What was your first instinct? Where did your mind go first? Marcus closed his eyes, shame washing over him. His first instinct had been to protect Victoria and the kids, to rush to Aspen, to save his current family, the family he had been present for, the family that knew him, just like he had chosen his ambition over Sarah and the twins 20 years ago. Just like he had chosen comfort over responsibility, just like he always chose the easier path. I see, he said quietly, his voice hollow. This was a test, and I failed. Again. Everything is a test, Evan said. And you keep failing, over and over, the same test, the same failure, the same selfish choice. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at his children. Really looked at them for the first time. He saw Sarah in their faces, but he also saw himself. The determination in Emma's jaw was his. The way Evan crossed his arms when he was upset was something Marcus did too. They were his children, his blood, his responsibility, and he had failed them in every way that mattered. "Take me to your mother," Marcus said suddenly, his voice firm. "Please, let me see her. Let me tell her I'm sorry. Let me hold her hand one more time. Victoria and the kids are safe. They don't need me right this second. But your mother does, and I have made her wait long enough." The twins exchanged glances, surprise flickering across their faces. They had expected him to choose Victoria, to run north to Aspen, to prove once again that his new family mattered more than his old one. Emma nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Get in our car. You can come back for yours later, if you want to." Marcus hesitated only a moment before following them to a beat-up Honda parked on the shoulder, its paint faded and one taillight cracked. The contrast between their vehicle and his luxury SUV was stark, a physical representation of the different worlds they inhabited, the different lives they had lived, the inequality his choices had created. The drive took 3 hours through winding mountain roads. They wound through mountain passes and small towns, the landscape growing darker as night fell like a curtain. No one spoke. The silence was heavy with anticipation and dread and 20 years of unspoken words. Marcus sat in the back seat, watching the twins in the rearview mirror. Evan drove with careful precision. Emma stared out the window, occasionally wiping her eyes. They finally pulled up to a small house on the outskirts of Boulder as the clock neared midnight. It was modest, with peeling paint and a sagging porch that needed repair. A single light glowed in an upstairs window. Nothing like the mansion Marcus lived in now with its immaculate landscaping and 3-car garage. But something about this house felt familiar, comforting even, real in a way his mansion never had been. "This is where we grew up," Emma said as they got out, her voice soft now. "Mom bought it 10 years ago when she finally saved enough for a down payment. It is not much, but it is ours. Every nail and board represents hours of her life, her sacrifice, her love." Marcus followed them inside, his heart pounding. The house smelled like lavender and soup and medicine. Photographs lined the walls, dozens of them. Pictures of the twins growing up. First day of kindergarten with matching backpacks. Middle school graduation, high school prom. College acceptance letters held up with proud smiles. Birthdays, holidays, band concerts, soccer games. An entire life documented in frames. A life he had missed completely. A life that had happened without him. He stopped at one photo, Emma and Evan at what looked like a high school graduation. They were wearing caps and gowns, standing on either side of Sarah. She looked older than Marcus remembered, tired, but her smile was radiant as she held her children close. The pride in her face was unmistakable. "She never missed anything," Evan said quietly from behind him. "Not one game, not one concert, not one parent-teacher conference. She was always there. Even when she was exhausted, even when she was sick, she showed up. That is what parents do." The words cut deep, each one a knife finding its mark. Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. "She is upstairs," Evan said finally. "Second door on the left. She has been waiting for you. We told her we would bring you. We promised. Please don't make us liars." Marcus climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. His heart pounded in his chest so hard he thought it might explode. What would he say to her? How could he possibly explain or apologize for 20 years of absence? What words could possibly be enough? He pushed open the door with trembling hands. Sarah lay in a bed surrounded by medical equipment. Oxygen tubes, IV stands, monitors beeping softly. She had aged, of course, but she was still beautiful in a way that transcended physical appearance. Her hair was thin now, gray where it had once been brown. Her face was gaunt, her skin pale. But her eyes, those eyes that had looked at him with such love all those years ago, were still warm, still kind, still capable of seeing good in him that he wasn't sure existed. She smiled when she saw him, and it was like being transported back 20 years. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "You came. I knew you would. The kids didn't believe me, but I knew. He crossed the room in 3 strides and fell to his knees beside her bed, taking her frail hand in both of his. It felt like holding a bird, light and fragile and precious. Sarah. God, Sarah. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for everything. For leaving. For not coming back. For missing everything. For being the worst person you ever loved. Shh, she said gently, squeezing his hand with what little strength she had. We don't have time for sorry. We only have time for truth. For what matters. For saying the things that need to be said. I was a coward, Marcus said, tears streaming down his face and onto their joined hands. I was selfish and stupid, and I ruined everything. I ruined us. I abandoned you and the kids, and I will never forgive myself for that. Never. Sarah smiled sadly. I forgave you a long time ago, Marcus. Not for you. For me. Holding on to that anger was killing me faster than the cancer. It was eating me alive from the inside. Forgiveness set me free. It let me live. It let me love our children without bitterness, poisoning everything. How can you forgive me? After everything I did? After I left you alone to raise 2 children? After I built a new life while you struggled? Because I loved you, Sarah said simply, her eyes glistening. And love doesn't just disappear because someone hurts you. It transforms. It becomes something else. Forgiveness, understanding, acceptance. And eventually, if you are lucky, peace. I found peace, Marcus. I hope you can too. Marcus sobbed openly now, his head resting on their joined hands, his shoulders shaking. 20 years of guilt poured out of him in great heaving waves. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve your peace. I don't deserve to be here. Probably not, Sarah agreed with a weak smile that reminded him of the girl he had fallen in love with. But I am giving it anyway. That is what love does. It gives even when it shouldn't. It forgives even when it hurts. It hopes even when hope seems foolish. They sat in silence for a long moment, just holding hands like they used to 2 decades ago, when the world was simple and full of possibility, when they had believed love could conquer anything. Before Marcus had learned that love required more than just feeling. It required action, sacrifice, showing up even when it was hard. The twins, Sarah said finally, her voice growing weaker. They are angry. They have every right to be. But they are also scared. Scared of losing me. Scared of being alone in this world. They need you, Marcus. Not your money. Not your guilt. You, a father. Even if you don't know how to be one yet, you can learn. It is not too late. It is never too late to start being who you should have been. It feels too late, Marcus whispered. They hate me. I can see it in their eyes. That is fear talking, Sarah said, her breathing becoming more labored. The same fear that made you run before. Don't run this time. Stay. Fight for them. Show them what it means to be a father, even if you are 20 years late. Show them that people can change, that mistakes don't have to be forever. What if they don't want me? What if I just make everything worse? They blocked a road to get your attention, Sarah said with a faint laugh that turned into a cough. They spent 6 months tracking you down. They confronted you. They brought you here. They want you, Marcus. They just don't know how to say it without anger, without pain, without all the walls they built to protect themselves from being abandoned again. Marcus looked at her. This woman he had loved and left. This woman who was teaching him grace even in her final days. This woman who had every right to curse his name, but instead offered forgiveness. I wish I could go back. I wish I could do everything differently. I wish I could be the man you deserved. You can't go back, Sarah said, her eyes starting to close. But you can start from here, from this moment. You can choose differently this time. You can be present. You can show up. You can love them the way they deserve to be loved. Victoria and my other kids are part of your life too, Sarah finished, her voice barely a whisper now. I know. The twins told me everything. You can love them all, Marcus. Love doesn't divide. It multiplies. You just have to be brave enough to try. Brave enough to be imperfect and present rather than perfect and absent. Her eyes began to close, exhaustion overtaking her fragile body. Promise me, she whispered, her grip on his hand weakening. Promise me you will not run this time. Promise me you will be there for them. Promise me my death will mean something. That it will be the thing that finally brings you home. I promise, Marcus said, his voice firm despite his tears. I promise I will not run. I promise I will be there. I promise I will try every single day to be the father they deserved from the beginning. Sarah smiled one last time, and in that smile Marcus saw forgiveness and love and hope. Then her eyes closed and her breathing steadied into the rhythm of sleep. Marcus sat with her for another hour, just holding her hand, memorizing the feel of it, knowing these might be his last moments with her, knowing that when she left this world, a part of him would go with her, the part that had never grown up, the part that had run from responsibility, the part that had believed success could fill the hole left by abandonment. When he finally went downstairs as dawn light filtered through the windows, he found the twins sitting at the kitchen table, mugs of coffee untouched and cold in front of them. They looked exhausted, their eyes red from crying. They looked up when he entered, their expressions guarded, but something had shifted. The anger had softened into something else, grief maybe, or hope, or both tangled together in a way that hurt and healed at the same time. She is sleeping, Marcus said, pulling out a chair and sitting down heavily. The doctors are right. She doesn't have long. Days maybe, not weeks. Emma wiped her eyes with a tissue that was already soaked. We know. We have known for months. We have been preparing. But you can never really prepare to lose your mother. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what he was about to say. I know you hate me. I know you have every reason to. But your mother asked me to try, to be your father, even though I don't deserve the chance, even though I don't know how, even though I will probably mess it up 100 times before I get it right. She asked me to try, and I am going to, if you will let me. Evan stared at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. And what about your other family? What about Victoria and James and Lily? Are you going to abandon them now? Make the same mistake in reverse? Because that is what you do. You run when things get hard. No, Marcus said firmly. I am going to do what I should have done 20 years ago. I am going to be honest. I am going to tell Victoria everything. About you, about your mother, about my past, about the man I was and the man I am trying to become. And I am going to try to be a father to all of you. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if any of you will let me. But I am going to try. Every single day, I am going to show up and try. Emma studied him carefully, looking for signs of deception, for the familiar pattern of promises made and broken. Why should we believe you? You have made promises before. To Mom, to yourself probably, and you broke them all. Because, Marcus said, meeting her eyes without flinching, I finally understand what I lost, and I don't want to lose anything else. Not you, not Evan, not the chance to know who you became despite me, not the chance to make your mother proud before she dies, not the chance to finally be the father I should have been all along. The twins were silent for a long moment, exchanging one of those wordless conversations that only siblings who have survived trauma together can have. Finally, Evan spoke, his voice rough. If you hurt us again, if you disappear again, if you make promises you don't keep, there will be no third chance. We will be done with you forever. We will erase you from our lives the way you erased us from yours. Do you understand? I understand, Marcus said, and I accept those terms. You deserve to protect yourselves. You deserve to have boundaries. You deserve to demand better. Emma stood up and walked to a drawer, pulling out an envelope with shaking hands. She handed it to Marcus. Mom wanted you to have this. She wrote it a month ago when she could still hold a pen, before the cancer got to her brain, before she started forgetting things. She made us promise to give it to you. Marcus opened the envelope with trembling hands, his fingers clumsy with emotion. Inside was a letter in Sarah's handwriting, shaky but legible, each word clearly written with great effort and greater love. Dear Marcus, if you are reading this, it means you came. It means you chose to face your past instead of running from it. I am proud of you for that. I always knew you had it in you to be brave. You just forgot for a while. Being a parent is terrifying. I know that now in ways I didn't when we were young. We were kids ourselves trying to raise kids. You ran because you were scared. I stayed because I was more scared of what would happen if I didn't. Neither choice was wrong. They were just different. But now you have another choice. You can choose to be present, to be imperfect but trying. That is all any parent can do. Try. Love the twins the way you should have loved them from the start. Teach them that people can change, that mistakes don't define us forever. Show them what redemption looks like. And forgive yourself, Marcus, because I have. And because holding on to guilt doesn't honor anyone. It just keeps you stuck in the past, unable to move forward. Move forward. Love forward. Live forward. Be the father they need now, not the one they needed 20 years ago. That man is gone. Be who you are today. Always, Sarah. Marcus folded the letter carefully, his hands shaking so badly he could barely manage it. He looked at the twins, these young adults who were strangers and yet unmistakably his children. He saw himself in them, his stubbornness in Evan's jaw, his intensity in Emma's eyes. But he also saw Sarah, her kindness, her strength, her capacity to love even when it hurt. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, his voice breaking. But I want to learn, if you will teach me, if you will be patient with me, if you will give me the chance I don't deserve. Emma glanced at Evan. Some unspoken communication passed between them, the kind that only twins could share after surviving together for 20 years. After being each other's family when their father chose not to be. Finally, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. Okay, we can try, but slowly and honestly. And if you mess up, we are going to call you on it. No more running, no more excuses. Slowly and honestly, Marcus agreed. And you have my permission to call me on everything, to hold me accountable, to demand better. You deserve that. The road ahead would not be easy. Marcus knew that. There would be arguments and setbacks and moments when the past threatened to pull them all under. Victoria would struggle to understand why he had hidden this part of his life. James and Lily would have questions about these older siblings they never knew existed. The twins would test him repeatedly, waiting for him to fail, to run, to prove that people never really change. But Marcus was determined not to run this time. He would stand in the discomfort. He would face the consequences of his choices. He would learn to be the father he should have been all along, even if it took the rest of his life to get it right. 3 days later, on a Tuesday morning when the sun was just rising over Boulder, Sarah passed away peacefully in her sleep with both twins beside her. Marcus had gone home briefly to talk to Victoria, to begin the painful process of revealing his past and integrating his two families. He missed Sarah's final moments, and that guilt would stay with him forever, a reminder of all the moments he had missed, all the times he had chosen wrong. But at the funeral, as he stood between Evan and Emma in a small chapel filled with people whose names he didn't know, but who had loved Sarah, who had been there for her when he wasn't, he felt something shift. The twins had let him stand with them, had let him grieve with them, had let him be acknowledged as their father, even in this small way, even in front of everyone who knew what he had done. After the service, as people filtered out of the chapel offering condolences and sharing memories of Sarah's kindness and strength, Evan turned to Marcus. His eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there too, a softness that hadn't been there before. Mom told us something before she died, something we need to tell you. Marcus braced himself, not knowing what to expect. What is it? Emma smiled through her tears, the first real smile she had given him. She said you were always good at building things. Buildings, businesses, empires, things that impressed people. She said maybe it was time you built something that mattered. Something that lasted in a way skyscrapers never could. A family. Marcus pulled them both into a hug, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Not running, not hiding, not chasing the next big thing or the next success or the next way to prove his worth. Just present, just trying, just loving the best way he knew how, which was imperfect and messy but real. In the months that followed, Marcus worked harder at being a father than he had ever worked at anything in his life. He invited the twins to dinner every week, learning their favorite foods, their stories, their dreams. He attended Emma's graduate school presentations and Evan's job interviews. He was there when they needed help moving furniture and when they just needed someone to listen. He introduced them to Victoria, James, and Lily in a careful, gradual process that respected everyone's feelings. The first meeting was awkward, held at a neutral restaurant where Victoria's hands trembled as she shook hands with the children her husband had hidden from her for their entire marriage. James and Lily stared with wide eyes at these older versions of themselves, seeing the same nose, the same chin, the genetic map they shared written across unfamiliar faces. Victoria struggled at first. The revelation had shattered her trust, her understanding of who her husband was. She spent nights crying, days questioning everything about their life together. Had he ever really loved her? Or was she just another replacement, another attempt to get it right with a do-over family? Marcus sat with her through every painful conversation, not running this time, not making excuses, just accepting her anger and her hurt and her right to feel betrayed. "I should leave you," Victoria said one night, 3 weeks after she learned the truth. "I should take the kids and file for divorce and make you pay for lying to me for 8 years. "You should," Marcus agreed, his voice heavy. "You have every right to. I lied to you. I hid a fundamental part of who I am. I understand if you can't forgive that." Victoria looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she had never seen before. Humility. True remorse. Not the practiced apologies of a businessman smoothing over a deal, but genuine regret that came from finally understanding the cost of his choices. "Why are you trying so hard with them now?" she asked. "Why after 20 years? "Because I finally realized what I lost," Marcus said. "And because Sarah forgave me. And if she could forgive me after everything I did, then I owe it to her and to them and to myself to try to be better. I can't change the past, but I can choose differently now. And I am choosing to be present for all of my children. If you will let me, if you will give me the chance to prove I can be better." Victoria thought about that for a long time, watching her own children sleep peacefully in their beds, unaware of how their world was shifting. Finally, she made her decision. "I am not promising to stay forever, but I am willing to try. For James and Lily. They deserve to have their father. And if you are serious about changing, about being better, then maybe this family can survive. But Marcus, if you run again, if you abandon any of us, I am done. Completely done." "I understand," Marcus said. "And thank you for giving me a chance I don't deserve." The blending of the families was slow and painful. James, at 8 years old, struggled to understand why he had to share his father with strangers. He acted out, refusing to speak to Evan and Emma during their first few visits. Lily, only 6, was more adaptable, curious about these older siblings, asking them endless questions about college and what it was like to be grown up. Evan remained guarded, watching Marcus carefully for signs that he would revert to his old patterns. Every canceled plan, every missed call, every moment Marcus was late sent Evan into a spiral of anxiety and anger. Emma tried to be more understanding, but the hurt ran too deep. Sometimes she would look at James and Lily, getting the childhood she never had, and have to leave the room to compose herself. 6 months after Sarah's death, Marcus organized a family dinner at his house for the first time. Everyone was there. Victoria cooking in the kitchen with Emma, both of them nervous and careful with each other. Evan helping James build a Lego set, his patience surprising even himself. Lily showing off her ballet moves to anyone who would watch. Marcus standing in the doorway, watching his two families in the same space, feeling the weight of what he had almost lost forever. During dinner, as they passed plates of food around the table, Lily asked the question everyone had been avoiding. "Emma, do you hate my dad?" The room fell silent. Victoria's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Emma looked at Lily, at this innocent child who had done nothing wrong, who was just trying to understand her complicated family. "I used to," Emma said honestly. "For a long time, I hated him. But my mom taught me that holding on to hate only hurts the person carrying it, so I am trying to let it go. It is hard. Some days I still get angry, But I am trying, and your dad is trying too. That is all any of us can do. Try. Lily considered this, her face serious beyond her years. My dad made mistakes? Yes, Emma said gently. Big ones. But he is trying to fix them? Yes. He is trying very hard. Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. My teacher says everyone makes mistakes. That is how we learn. Maybe my dad is learning. The simplicity of her logic broke something open in the room. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. Victoria reached under the table and squeezed his hand. Evan looked away, but his jaw was less tight than before. Emma smiled at Lily, a real smile that reached her eyes. Yes, Emma said. Maybe he is learning. The years that followed were not perfect. There were arguments and misunderstandings and moments when old wounds reopened. Evan struggled with addiction for a while, turning to alcohol to numb the pain of his childhood, and Marcus had to learn how to support him through rehab, how to show up for the hard parts of parenting, not just the easy celebratory moments. Emma went through a difficult breakup and called Marcus at 2 in the morning, surprising them both, and he drove across the city to sit with her while she cried, just being present the way he never had been before. James eventually warmed to his older siblings, especially after Evan taught him how to fix cars, spending weekends in the garage with grease on their hands and music playing, building the relationship Marcus had denied them both. Lily adored Emma, following her around like a shadow, asking about college and careers and what it meant to be a strong woman. Victoria and Emma developed an unexpected friendship, bonding over their shared experience of loving difficult men, of choosing to stay and fight rather than run. They had coffee every Thursday, just the two of them, talking about everything and nothing, building something new from the wreckage of Marcus's past. On what would have been Sarah's 50th birthday, Marcus gathered all of them at the small house in Boulder that Emma and Evan had inherited. He had wanted to buy them something bigger, something better, but they had refused. This house was their mother's legacy, filled with her love and sacrifice, and they wanted to keep it exactly as it was. They planted a tree in the backyard together, all 6 of them taking turns with the shovel. A cherry tree because Sarah had loved cherries, had dreamed of having a tree when they could finally afford a house with a yard. They planted it 20 years too late, but they planted it together, and that meant something. As the sun set over the mountains, turning the sky orange and pink, Marcus stood with his children around him. Both families merged into something new and imperfect and beautiful. Emma had her arm around Lily. Evan was explaining something to James, their heads close together. Victoria stood beside Marcus, her hand in his. She would be proud of this, Victoria said quietly. Of what you built here. Marcus thought about that, about Sarah's final letter, about her challenge to build something that mattered. He looked at his children, all 4 of them, and felt something he had never felt before in all his business success and accumulated wealth. He felt complete. I spent 20 years building things that didn't last, Marcus said. Buildings that will eventually crumble, companies that will eventually be sold, money that will eventually be spent. But this family, this is what lasts. This is what matters. Evan overheard him and walked over, his expression thoughtful. You know what Mom told me the day before she died? I never told anyone this. Everyone turned to listen. She said that you leaving was the worst thing that ever happened to her and also the thing that made her strongest. She said she had to learn to be enough for all of us, father and mother, provider and protector, and that made her into the person she became. She said maybe you needed to leave so she could become who she was meant to be, and maybe you needed to come back so we could all become who we are meant to be now. Marcus felt the words hit him like a physical force. Sarah had found meaning even in his abandonment, had transformed his weakness into her strength, had forgiven him not by forgetting what he did, but by understanding that broken things could be rebuilt into something new. I don't deserve that grace, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. No, Emma agreed, stepping forward. You probably don't. But that is the thing about grace. It is not about deserving. It is about choosing to give it anyway. Mom chose to forgive you. We are choosing to try to have a relationship with you. Victoria chose to stay. That is grace. That is love. messy and complicated and imperfect, but real. As darkness fell and they moved inside, filling the house with laughter and conversation, and the sounds of a family that should not exist but did, Marcus thought about the road that had brought him here. The mountain pass where two angry young people had blocked his path and forced him to confront everything he had run from. He thought about how he had almost chosen wrong again, almost driven north to Aspen instead of south to Sarah. How close he had come to failing one more time. But he had chosen differently. For once in his life, he had made the hard choice, the right choice, and that single decision had changed everything. Years later, when Marcus was 65 and looking back on his life, when journalists asked him about his greatest achievement, he never mentioned the skyscrapers or the business deals or the millions of dollars. He talked about his children, all four of them, about second chances and redemption and the grace of a dying woman who taught him what really mattered. He kept Sarah's letter in his wallet until the day he died, the paper worn soft from being unfolded and read countless times. When he felt himself slipping into old patterns, when business tried to consume him again, when fear whispered that he should run, he would pull out that letter and read her words. Build something that matters, a family. And he did. It took him 20 years too long to start. It was imperfect and complicated and required more work than any business he had ever built. But it was real. It was his. It was the thing he was most proud of when he closed his eyes for the last time. Surrounded by all four of his children, holding his hand, forgiving him one last time, letting him go with love instead of anger. Emma delivered the eulogy at his funeral, standing before a packed church, speaking to the man he had been and the man he had become. My father was not a good man for most of his life, she said honestly. He made terrible choices. He hurt people. He ran from responsibility. But in his last 20 years, he became something different. He became present. He became accountable. He became a father. Not a perfect one, not one who erased the past, but one who tried every single day to do better. And in the end, that is all any of us can do. Try, show up. Love imperfectly, but genuinely. He taught me that it is never too late to change, never too late to choose differently, never too late to become who you should have been all along. Next to her, Evan nodded, tears streaming down his face. Beside him, James and Lily held hands, mourning the father who had been there for them always, and for their older siblings eventually. Victoria sat in the front row, still Marcus's wife after 25 years of marriage, having chosen to stay through the hard work of rebuilding trust. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, Sarah smiled, because Marcus had finally built something that mattered, something that would outlast buildings and businesses and bank accounts. He had built a family, broken and rebuilt, imperfect but real, 20 years late but exactly on time for the people who needed him most. The cherry tree in the Boulder backyard grew tall and strong, bearing fruit every spring, a living testament to second chances and the transformative power of forgiveness. And every year on Sarah's birthday, all four children gathered beneath its branches with their own children, telling the story of how their family broke and healed and became something beautiful despite everything. Because that is what love does. It breaks, it heals, it transforms. And if you are brave enough to stay, to try, to choose differently, it builds something that lasts forever.